guys. So I'm a restaurant guy, and I feel like over the years I've done put my time in service of this industry, and I have a love and passion for it, and I have a certain technique and way of looking at it, of how to serving a guest, or I come into my restaurant a whole different ideology on things, I would say. But see what you guys think on it. I'm gonna break it down where I will put a blog or something. I go every week, or actually every day. I could do a topic and we'll go with it in a group. See which one, if you guys agree. All of my topics will be based on facts that I've learned through the years in the industry, and I'll start with service. So if you're into serving tables in a restaurant, I've worked anywhere from corporate to privately owned. I've done sushi. I mastered Peruvian cuisine. Actually, was the hardest one. It took me like 6 months to actually learn it. Until this day, after 10 years, I could recite any dish to the T in any recipe because I really, really learned this cuisine thanks to the chef and owner of Ceviche 105. He was an excellent mentor for me because this man taught me how to really look at things in a different way. As the whole dining experience. So so we come in, I break it down, I look for the heart of the restaurant. So what's the meaning of this place? Every restaurant, I believe, has a heart, a meaning, a dish, or something that connected to it that makes the whole reason for having this restaurant. Um, Say like a lot of Italian restaurants will be like, let's Mamma Mia, this and that. They're just words that are used to that people know and are catchy, and but there's also a heart to that, and I believe that that would be the first step for me to look for as a member of this restaurant in order for me to be overall the best I can be in providing service for my guests with good food and attention to detail and appreciating good dining. So I see that I look for the heart of the restaurant, and the heart of the restaurant at this point will be Mamma Mia sauce that that is so popular. Everybody comes to eat this pizza because the sauce is so great, right? So since I am aware of the heart of the restaurant, the reason, well, the heart of the restaurant saying like, okay, the sauce is the staple. Like everybody wants to have the sauce. It's a special sauce. They don't know what it is. But, it's something that they really pushed. And the owner, that said, grew up with this awesome sauce he loved so much. So he actually put in a restaurant, and in his heart, his passion was that sauce. So he wants to serve that to our guests and show how good this sauce is. Why should everybody have it, right? Because the ingredients are great. My grandma made it since I was a kid, and I just loved it. So I opened up a restaurant. So therefore, I see the whole heart, or let's say the whole center to it all, because I believe in good dining. Um, is connected to emotions, feelings, and all of your let's say it's once you go into dining in a dining room, your person psychologically is connected in so many different ways, and your senses are like you're just a whole all around experience that your body goes through your mind that would set it aside as a version of good or bad to you. So therefore most people would not notice this, but it's something subconsciously that might happen also. So anyway, so as for me to provide this at 100, I believe that that's where I'll start. Now that we got that established, see what what's the main heart of this place. Then we break it down dish by dish, and we do this to the T, where all of my employees in my restaurant knows my ingredients of all my dishes, knows the procedure of the recipe to the T. What what you might say this is too much for it's just, oh, I'm just a waiter and I'm just a hostess. But I'm gonna break it down to explain why I see that like that. For example, if you would say, "Oh, I'm just a hostess," why I would need to know recipes and all techniques and all that? Well, my answer to that is, in a successful restaurant, a restaurant that will run like a well-oiled machine. Not only does it have to have fresh ingredients, knowledge and all this, and history and all that, it also has to have a great hostess, because the hostess is the first person the restaurant, wherever whoever's dining is seeing. So once you open these doors to my restaurant, they're approached by my hostess, in which I always have more than one, because this is the most important part of everything, because the first impressions are the most important thing. So my hostess has a job to provide for my restaurant, and that job of the hostess, that might be overseen, it is not, because actually, if not one of the most important, or if not the most important one, because when the first thing you see is the first impression that's going to be cast out throughout your dining experience in my restaurant. For me to be set aside from all the other ones, I need to be particular in every detail there is. So my hostess, where some people may see it like it's not just so important, let's just put a younger person, doesn't need experience because this is just a hostess. You're wrong, because hostess has total control of your layout, of your guest's experience, of timing, and of the flow of everything of your restaurant. So if I just sit, yeah, I have 50 tables and I have everyone sat, because that, people are telling me, hey, there's a table right there, or no, there's no such thing as that, because the sitting needs to be broken down to where you're aware of how many people have open menus and how long they've been there, and how is the flow of my tickets coming out of my kitchen. What is the timing on my appetizers, and what is my timing on my entrees? What is my dining room looking like? Are my tables pre-bussed? Is everybody having a good experience? Is my meats coming out on temperature? Are my staff treating my guests in a warm way? Are my staff showing interest in their work with good hygienes and knowledge of my menu? Therefore, going back to why everybody needs to know the ingredients, because like the hostess is hostess is the first person you see. A hostess also buys you time. A hostess has to know to talk to the guests, and what else can we talk about than our great food they're about to experience? Because therefore, this is a whole. When families go out to dine, they're looking for an experience that sets us aside from other ones, and that's what makes me to start getting the grip of that. Wow, you know. So not only am I serving the freshest, best food I could serve, I'm also serving great attention to detail, and I'm serving guest relations, and I'm making a connection between me and my locals that will ensure me a successful restaurant. So, a family of four goes into dinner. My hostess needs to be aware of this four. She needs to greet with a smile, and she needs to look excellent. For my first impression is very important. Hygienes are number one. And let's just say that certain jobs are for certain looks and certain people. Not to demeanor anybody, because everybody's equal and everybody has something they're good at. But this is like a basketball game. You put a tall guy in the center because he's the tallest one. Well, here I put a very elegant person in front of the door. It could be male or female. This person must be easy on the eyes, but respectful, knowledgeable on all my menu items, all my special of the night. This person must learn people's faces and names and address them by last name if possible. For a connection with a name, it is worth a lot and establishes more of a history of coming back than a connection that is not done like that. So, my family of four in, I am the head of the table, which is another step that I need to be picked up, as it's many ways of picking up to it, but mainly this is the person I'm addressing at that table, because this person is really who's invited this table, and at the last minute, more than likely, be the one that's gonna pay. So if you're able to pick that up, you're already in and you're breaking the ice. So, as when your guest sits down, you have a very small window to be acknowledged. A diner does not want to be acknowledged 10 minutes later, 5 minutes later. A diner wants to feel like they're the only ones in the restaurant. And my staff, one of the most important parts of their job is to do exactly that, like that. It's exactly that. So, so far, we're at this point. We have a family of four. Um, my staff is on the floor. It's Friday night, and my floor is just running. It's still starting to run for dining. So this is my version of the way my techniques, my style of running a restaurant. You guys would be the critic of if you agree with me or not. But this is a rough draft when I'm starting, and then I will continue to polish off on this like I've done with my career. So talking about the hostess, very important. Her job, because it's the first expression. Okay. Therefore, if she has no clue of what we're selling, then how can she even have, like, how can she even own a spot in the restaurant if you or he or her not know what we're selling? Because if you don't know where our heart is, then you have no point in being in this place. Okay, so therefore, I want after my guest comes in, you have the head count. You put a date. You put a time, date, and name of the guest, and if it's a priority, if it was called before, all these things have to be taken into consideration. Also, my host needs to know if my floor is still capable of providing excellent attention to my guests, because a floor that's oversat, it's not going to be attended right. It's not about I have 10 tables and I have four tables that are taken and the rest are, oh, why can't I sit the other people? Why can't I sit? No, it's not that. Because if I overseat, it forces my team to run at too fast of a pace. Therefore, it's affecting my dining experience. Therefore, I'm no longer serving quality food at a dining pace where a guest feels like they're welcome and warm and they're just enjoying every asset of their dinner. I'm converting it into a production line in which my guest feels like they're part of the production line and nothing else. So therefore, the whole experience, when it's closed out in their head, it wasn't setting aside from anything other than the other ones. Nonetheless. So that's why my hostess is to do that. So okay, this is what I'll do. I'll give a rough idea of how I see how to run a floor in a restaurant and see, and then I'll go in more detail later because now I'll talk about this forever. So my staff needs to be well groomed, needs to be uniformed at spec, needs to have money in their pocket, correct change, multiple writing utensils, multiple writing tools. Okay, bottle opener, can opener, a duster for the table, two microfiber rags or linen. Okay. Uniform is polished shoes and long socks, dark black pants creased. As far as the uniform should have to be, not washed by employees, should be pressed by one of those companies, and this would be something that I would check on a weekly basis if your uniforms are being sent to be cleaned through a professional and ironed, because you may say it's too extreme, but it's not, because cleanliness is number one, freshness is number one, detail is number one. All these things are, remember, we're creating 100% the best experience you could ever have in a dining room. So therefore, you can't let anything down. And appearances are very important. As far as food appearances, as far as my guests, should need to see clean staff, well groomed, polished shoes. We need a belt. No excuses. A staff member with none lacking one of these items are not to be forgiven. They're to be sent home 3 times in a row. Or to be terminated for they're showing me that they're not even in uniform. So my staff is to come in with those things. So remember, change, so you can provide change to your table, because this is what's going to make you flow, right? Okay, you're shaved, your clothes is ironed and dry cleaned with your stamp on the side of the week, so I could see that it was already dry cleaned. Because a floor that's my floor, my dining room, my restaurant will sell and make you food and make you money, 100%. So follow these steps, and I assure you that not only is the restaurant will be number one, my staff will also be besides the best in the area, if not the best, if not the best. So therefore, and you don't wipe your nose like I just did. That is against everything, and that is something that the staff does not do. They don't huddle or none of that stuff. Well, again, I got to back off. I don't want to go into all that. I'll go into detail later. So my server is there. You say that they might be ready, right? For most part, no. And it is still something else left. My server has now that they're uniformed, the shoes are polished. Why are shoes polished? For the reason being that shoes are, everything drops on shoes. So if you go work all night, I assure you, your shoes has sauce or something over the next day. There's nothing less attractive than a shoe with a dressing spot. It's just not something I want to see. It's just disrespectful to my guests, to yourself, and to everyone. So that's one. Okay. So after my service at that point, then I also gonna go and one by one, I want them to sell to me. I will pick a wine, for example, and I want my server to approach in the center of my lineup and introduce themselves in a way that we're not going to say, "Hi, is everything okay?" That is the worst thing you would say in a floor. I would not ever have an employee talk to my guests and refer to them as "everything okay." If I was to hear that, I would give it one more chance, and I would terminate afterwards, because that's not a terminology that you should be used in my restaurant or in any restaurant, because it's you telling me and putting a thought in my guest's mind that maybe things are bad or maybe they're not okay. So remember, every psychology has a lot to do with this dining experience. So we're breaking it down. I want to have the best dining experience we can provide. So this is the steps that I'm saying. Okay, brainstorming on. So therefore, my hostess is to know the ingredients, because my hostess is going to be selling this plate along while she sits, or maybe sometimes we need to create a little bit of a distraction because my floor is too full, and you can't overseat it, because my food needs to be cooked at a proper temperature, presented perfectly, and with respect to itself. Okay, so as my guest is seating, there's a timer that goes in their mind. As soon as they open the door, they're already timing everything, because it's just a natural thing that we do, especially when we are in there hungry. And what's worse than having a hungry guest that's trying you out, and you just haven't even said hi to the table that's been there at 15 minutes, which in their guest's mind is more than like half an hour. So the hostess has a grip on all this. So the hostess is to I know the specials right at the door. Okay, now my regulars are to be known. You are to know their name and last name, and are to be referred as Mr. or Mrs. Okay. This creates more of a chance of a loyal comeback guest. Customers. Somebody told me one time that customers are for retail stores, and I agree now. But it's kind of hard to speak when you stop and say guest instead of, but that's, what I mean. Customers are for retail stores, and we are not a retail store. We are a dining room, and you're here to eat my most famous sauce, remember? Our heart of a restaurant. So, where we broke down the hostess, why it's important, very important for her to write down the time the guest is talked to and sat. Okay? Because, and if you don't do that, then there's no way to know how long they actually been there, because they're always going to tell you it's been longer, because it's just a natural thing we do. And there's no way to actually be able to time my tops into converting them over, because remember, this is a top that's going to be set by a family, and every family or every single person that walks in my dining room has the same exact experience, okay, that we will provide through a trained staff that knows food, loves food, like I myself do. So, so far we're at that point, and I don't know much about other like mechanics and all these other fields like that. Like I'm a trade of a lot of things, but I am very, I would put anyone to challenge me in the floor in the dining room, because that's how confident I'm of my trade. For I've had put my heart and soul into it since I can remember. When I was younger, I was so crazy. I would work in this restaurant, and then I would leave it, and I'll go another one, and I'll tell you what, I've worked in so many restaurants, you'll be like, oh my God, you name it, I worked in it. But for that brief time that I have worked in it, one thing I've done through those years that I could set aside from everything that's actually a positive, was that I picked up from the corporate technique, from other terminologies and sizzle words, and just all around how they do their job, like corporates and all that. I picked up the positive things and tools that I needed to do along with my work, and it all comes into play now, along with sushi rolling, which I love so much. I also, that was the last thing I've learned, but the whole point about it is that I don't. I want to provide excellent dining, okay, with excellent food. And you may say there's no such thing as excellent when it comes to that, and there's different ways of saying, but you could always. My objective is to make sure my guests are here for an experience they can't forget, and that they will be back to, because they just love. Remember, so my hostess is knowledgeable of the timing. Okay, there's no congregating in my door. Personal hygienes are to be number one, and I'm there to know our regular's name and last name. As far as that, we write it down in the log and also I want to have emails of my locals for sales, so I could provide them with our weekly food specials, in which I don't sell old food to push out as a special at a lower price. I do it different. My special is a dish that I will bring in every day of a local, natural, or fresh ingredient. That's like fish, marlin, swordfish, whatever's fresh on that day. And I show cam it, and and I will send emails to my locals to let them know, hey, I have Otsobuco this weekend. Don't miss out. You could also do a little throw in a sangria or something to the family, and they might, oh well, he's giving out free food, that's why they come see him, or free drinks. And that's another negative, because first of all, my staff is not to challenge my work or my training through or what I want them to do on my floor. For the moment that is let done, I no longer have control of my dining room, because it's so critical for the management not to be questioned. And if there is something to be questioned, it's to be discussed in the back at a later time. For the time of dining is the time that I provide 100% to my diners. So if there's something wrong on the table, my server is to professionally handle it. My server is not to question my guests. My server will find out what's wrong and immediately set fire to what we need to recook, do, or whatever. And it's to bring to my attention, or to my managers, to let them know what's going on. And a manager needs to come and expedite the table of the trouble immediately, in hopes of not ruining the overall experience of the diner. So let's say my family of four, father ordered a bone-in ribeye. Okay, it is a 16-ounce cut. It is fresh, never frozen, organic, free range, Black Angus grade, excellent cut of meat, cut at home. When it was served, the server needs to. Okay, the server sold this dish for me. The server goes to the table and says, "Hi, good evening, welcome. And tonight's special dish from the chef is the bone-in ribeyes, black Angus. Man, I want to let you know we tried it before we started because chef always lets us try it, and it was just delicious. The temperature on it was just the perfect one. I had it medium for it. I feel like it's great at that flavor, nice heat to it, and along with my Beck from Mendoza, Argentina was a great wine to pair with. I just want to let you guys know because I tried it and I can't wait to get off to have one more, believe it or not, because it's just so dang good. But hopefully I sell all of them before I get out, right? So my waiter sold that item. Great, that was a great job because that's what they spilled at. That's what they practiced before, and that's what they stood in front of us. So I have a dining room almost ready for dining. I collect all of my waiters, my staff, everybody in the restaurant is to stop for a second, and it's to have a huddle with me, and I go one by one of my staff, and I tell them, okay, Stephanie, sell me the dish of the night, and Stephanie sells me an appetizer, a dish, and after dinner drink, also a nice salad. So basically, my server is the menu. All my waiters are to be the menu. I don't want menus just full of reading material there, and a waiter just they leave the menu there and they just leave. Oh, they're looking at the menu, and no, this is the way I see my dining room. I want my waiter staff to be the menu, because why I say this is because I'm not. When I worked as a waiter, I found through the years that I started to get better at it. I found that I was the whole menu. I was the menu. The menu was me, because I was so sure of what to sell these folks by first of all I get to learn my guests, and then second of all, a man has a lot to say about it, just the way they dress when it comes to eating. Believe it or not, there's a man with a nice Rolex is more prone to have a $50 steak. You know, it's just that's the way it is. Or a couple that's out to dating, and you could tell they're dating. It is prone to have a nice filet mignon, even if it's just to share. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that the food is served to its best. Okay, my job is to get the best quality of the food, to create that dish with attention to detail, attention to its organic state, attention to how it's handled and its lifespan. Okay, from everywhere from my fridge, from the truck to the fridge, walk-in cooler, to the cleaning of the protein, to the labeling of it, how long it's been in my store, then to the handling of the cook. Did the cook respect the recipe? Did the cook follow with the recipe, or did the cook add more different things? My recipes are not to be altered because my recipes are established on knowledge of what I've seen and what I've worked for, and it's not to be altered by someone else to add different flavor. For every steak or every dish that comes out of my dining room has a uniform taste, for I have uniform ingredients and I have a uniform recipe to be followed. This will increase my chances of having a good experience with the dish. So the dish, the waiter, the hostess. So I'm going down see so you folks could see how I see my floor. This is called the way I dine. Okay. So I hopefully with God's help I'm able to, and I'm open to everybody's religion. There's nobody's I respect everybody's thinking and all that. But in dining room, my religion is dining and my guests. So I can't have such thing as, oh, they're reading the menu and you're standing in a corner. No, my floor is not to be oversat, and that doesn't matter if there's they want to make money, this and that. No, everybody's going to make a lot of money with every table, because if they practice the way I'm telling them, they will. So no guess by name and last name. See what they like and always offer the best of the best. So if I have a guy coming in, I immediately, hey, welcome guys, I want to let you know, get your hand, keep your eyes open for our next most flavorful steak, the Outlaw Ribeye we started this week. There's only a few left, and I really would like, I can't push and stress enough how delicious and this beautiful protein texture it has, and the waiter is to know every tea of it, because if the waiter does not know the ingredients, the waiter cannot sell it. So the waiter knows how it's cooked and the ingredients. So that makes the waiter in control of that sale, because of knowledge makes my waiter look
good. It makes my guests interested. It gets their attention, and it gives the waiter total control of the table. Therefore, the outcome might be to the 120% where it leads to successful dining. So my waiter is my waiter is to know all foods, and also my waiter is to create the dining experience at a step by step procedure that I create, that I feel like it's the perfect steps needed in order for proper dining. Okay, so since they know all of my food and technique how to cook, it helps them sell things so fast that is unremarkable. So ribeyes, I want them to be immediately as sold to the guests is to be referred as, would you like it medium? Immediately you say, would you like it medium? Because I don't want you to ask for a temperature. I want you to provide a temperature that's educated based on facts of what you're having, what you're ordering. So a bone-in ribeye, 16-ounce cut, an American cut. It's nice, hearty, it's beautiful, it's excellent, it's organic, it's just everything you would like in a nice steak. But there's so many things that could go wrong with this beautiful steak. So starting from, if a server does not know my ingredients, maybe there's somebody that doesn't like certain peppers or something, and now since the server didn't know this, it is prone for my guests to not get what they expect. So I put my work into getting that 100% meat, the best quality. Now, the process of it leaving the window, it needs to be sold properly. So by that I say you offer a temperature for being that when you put into the guest's mind, you command a temperature. It is not the same than you to ask the guest, well, what temperature would you like it cooked? That is not how I want my guests to be asked. I want my guests to be asked, would you like that medium? Immediately to be told that. Why? Because you're putting that command that is more prone for them to say yes, and therefore it is more prone for you to have room to have no flaws. It is more prone for you to have the experience, and quality, taste, and texture that you're trying to expose on that item. So, and therefore that steak is a fatty steak. So you could either go medium or well in that world, but I always go for medium for many reasons. For being, because the showcase of that meat at that temperature for me is perfect, because you have the nice texture of the protein throughout. You have a nice heat consistency, and also you can enjoy the buttery of it, of the fat to the meat. So now that plate itself is exploded by another technique of pairing with a beautiful wine, a nice hearty wine, a nice red wine that will go excellent to excel the flavors of that protein. It would make that steak so much better. So I want my staff to be able to know this knowledge in order to push this knowledge onto my guests, so my guests start on their feet of having a great dining experience that sets us aside from all the others, with attention to how to pair wines and drinks and sodas to the right dishes. Okay, because the whole dining is an experience of senses and dining and quality and all that together. So therefore, the guest is sitting here. She's at your mercy. She's giving you a chance to say, hey, this is my marker. This is where I want to eat. These people do food right. So my waiter approached the table immediately after the hostess. My waiter's aware that the table's there. My waiter goes, as soon as they're aware of that, they're to tell the guests they're beef with them, get a drink order, whatnot. Introduce yourself. That is very critical. Then introduce what you want them to eat, what you believe, and what is the best. Pair it. Drinks with appetizers, a nice crisp salad. A salad is only good as its ingredients and its temperature. If a salad is sold to a guest under temperature, where the leaf and lettuce is not crisp and cold and served on a cold frozen plate, it would not give you the quality and the experience that you would have if you were to serve them a properly served salad where the plates are cold, frozen, your forks are cold, frozen. Your dessert is not on the dessert is served on the side on a ramekin, okay, and then the lettuce is to be fluffed, crisp, and the tomatoes are to be firm, and all the ingredients and aromatics of that you put on there on your house salad should be fresh cut for every shift, rotated. It should have the best of the best, and it shouldn't have any wilt. And salad needs to be 100% cold. If it's not cold, it is not a good salad. Salads are to be served fresh, crisp, and cold. Really. So now with a good cold salad, it goes great as an opener or even together with an excellent ribeye steak. Now you have a pairing of a nice Cabernet full body because it's a hearty steak. It is dark meats or go good with a dark wine. It's a balance that just goes great. So we go there, but we're not in the entree yet. So we started with the salad. Okay, nice opener. It's nice, fresh, crisp, exploring my homemade dressing that I make with local ingredients, and that's just my first part of my whole experience to my dining room. Okay, if they don't like salads, it's not a problem. There's other options, but this is just an example. So after that, I paired it with I'm opening up nice salad. I'm getting lady like a nice Sauvignon Blanc. The nice Sauvignon Blanc for me is my favorite wine. It's it is it is not hard to drink, and it goes great with many light items. Like for example, we could open up with a nice calamari, and sauteed in wine and garlic, or nice shallots and a nice buttery wine sauce, and then we'll go ahead and open up with a nice Chardonnay or a nice Sauvignon Blanc, and then proceed as we go into dinner into entrees with our nice freshly um, piping hot dish that's been plated to perfection and detailed to the most attention to detail. It is showcased to its beauty and natural organic state of it. It is actually cooked throughout the way my guests would request, and handled to the table with utmost attention to what's going on the whole time, to the dish and to its um, detailed description. So my waiter, so the waiter is sold my steak, paired it. Okay, so we're on to a great experience. Okay, now the cleanliness of the dining room is also so important. My dining room is to be broken down every night. Every table, every chair is to be taken out of the dining room. Every waiter has 10 tables, 10 chairs. They polish, clean their whole area starting from the top to the bottom, rotating all chairs and doing all the legs. And all my tables are to be sturdy and they cannot move in the dining room. I don't have rocking chairs in my dining room. Okay, this is something I will check before dinner. Okay, so now the server serves. So and that's how serving in a restaurant. That's my dining techniques that I feel like should be done. So in my restaurant, this is the techniques I have. So my waiter is serving my guest an excellent Angus meat. He's loving it. My table, it is bussed through. I don't have my guests eating with 10 plates on there. A waiter's to come in and out with full hands at the whole time as my shift. There's no such thing as this is not my job. Everybody has the same job. Their job is to provide a service that is one to none in the whole town and sets us aside from everything. So remember, our goal is to provide an experience that sets us to the best. Okay, so that experience goes to tremendous detail and everything to overcome everything else. So now my guest is loving his steak. My server served that dish, and immediately after served went around and came back and checked to see was that to your was that cooked to the temperature of your liking is the right words. Okay, so you might have your guest cut into the middle of the steak, the fattest part, and see if it's red throughout, if it's slightly pink, whatever they might ask. Medium being center, red hot center. um, so the meat is not to be turned more than once. It is to be cooked to a certain temperature at a certain time pace, moved at an angle and then flipped once, then moved at an angle and then served, rested and then served. The meat is to be rested for the protein to be able to have the time to have all the juices still in that meat. So when the guest cuts in through the middle, you have all that juiciness of the steak still inside the protein to ensure quality, flavor, and just overall experience of best of the best, right? So the handling is so important also because all of my meats will be cut then for that dining. So listen, perfection takes a lot of different details. Now, so the waiter checked back to the liking of the customers to the liking. He loves the steak, so I'm good. So now I pace my tables and I throw in my desserts or my after dinner drinks. Now there's a way of remember that drinks that we had the wines at the beginning. Also, you could also I feel like you could pair Coca Colas also Sprites 7 Up with dinner too. Like a fish, we'll do a nice Sprite. It goes way well with it because or a tropical breeze, Mountain Dew or something. It's just a good connection with your palate in that. So there's also a way of cleansing the palate. If a guest is having something that's really hearty and rich, you might want your server to suggest a palate cleanser in order for the guest to have that experience in the next round of his entree and have the full flavor that you're trying to accomplish here, and really have that. Remember, the senses are so connected to the whole dining experience. Oh, like the way you smell, what you look at, everything. So my goal is to provide the best dining experience. So I'm aware of all these things. So there. Let's say the lady that part of the table that came in, his wife, Mrs. Hernandez, for example. I know her because she's my local. So immediately I address her by Mrs. Hernandez and Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez being the host of the table. With me knowing this, then I'm able to handle my table at a different way, in a way that showcases the not only my food in my restaurant, it also showcases my my the guest, the guy that invited his family to eat here with me. So uh, even brandies and cognacs and all that goes great with a nice steak and stuff like that. Like I would do, let's say an appetizer, for example, ceviche. A nice, wonderful ceviche is a great way to open up a table. It is nice. It's fresh. It has no fat. It's just overall just healthy and great. It's a good experience. It's something I love to make with a nice fresh sea bass or mahi mahi, freshly caught from the ocean. It's never been frozen. I cut it and clean it myself, and I handle it myself. Okay, I use the whole fish. I don't throw any of it away. I use the head and bones for stock, and I use the fillets for my dishes and entrees, and I use local aromatics as my garnish and also as for my flavor enhance. Okay, so pairing of the food is very important. Busting the tables, knowledge on how to sell the food and why you sell it certain ways. A filet mignon is not to be served well done, for the filet mignon has no fat to the meat. It's a protein that, yeah, it's very soft because it's never been used by the cattle. It just sits in between the rib cage, so therefore it makes that muscle that's just melts in your mouth. So therefore it calls for a very low temperature of rare to medium rare, medium at the highest, medium well being like the highest you would even try. Maybe not even that, depending. So it's center cuts at 8 to 12 ounce. It is seared in a hot temperature grill at room temperature. My protein is to be at room temperature. For meat that is put to cook, it needs to be brought to room temperature in order to be cooked properly. In order for all the flavors to be in that meat that you would like, you have to have a surface that is properly heated. If it's a saute pan, it is to be heated with some butter and to be cut with olive oil. For butter is burns too quick, but it adds that beautiful marbly taste to your meat that you must have on every dish like that. But in order for you not to burn the butter, my chef is to add some olive oil and butter into the fresh aromatics and then base my protein as I sear it, and I sear it in the grill for my diamond marks. Okay, I put it on my saute pan and sear it at a sizzling pace. Okay, and then I throw it in the oven for temperature finishing. After it's almost medium, I take it out of the oven. I wrap it up in fillet and in paper or in aluminum foil, and that meat is to be next 3 minutes or five rested before it is showcased in my plate, and is to be plated and taken out immediately to its table and not to be auctioned out. It is to be served to the guest as in order it was ordered. With also my waiter is to run back and check back on the quality and whole dining experience so far, and on the busing of the table, the refills of the drinks. Okay, and it's also always encouraging our guests to try new dishes, and also encouraging and giving knowledge to our guests of our monthly comings and of what we're known for and what we recommend. Always going for the best qualities and freshness. So therefore, my guests are more prone to have an excellent dining experience at this point. If my table is having a problem, there's no whatsoever no doubt to I will take out any dish or any ticket out of my dining room and make no charge for any particular reason that I feel suit for my diner's sake and my restaurant's integrity. So if I have a diner that's not happy, I am not one of my staff is there to argue with them, no matter even if they've done it 50 times, because it is to my discretion or my management discretion to overall partake in the decision of taking or not taking the guest's honor the guest's complaint, because every complaint it is to be honored in a professional and in a grateful manner. So I have to go above and beyond to provide dining experience that is number one. So if my guest is not happy, my job is to immediately do what it takes to make my guest happy. For there's a small window of fixing a problem or fixing a bad dish. There's a small window that you have. So you're not entitled to be in my dining room and argue with none of my guests, for my guests are coming to my house to have dinner with me as a friend or as a guest, as a family, and they're not here to be integrated because they're not happy about a certain item. They're to have the item removed from the plate. The item is to be removed immediately. The dish is to be removed immediately. I don't want to evaluate it. I don't want it pictured. I don't want it to be walked around, and I definitely would not want a waitress or a waiter to be arguing with the guests of their being right or not being wrong. There is no arguing whatsoever. It's not to be tolerated. They're to be immediately terminated because they will be aware that I much said not to argue with no guest, no matter what time or how many times they might want, or to ever think that they want something for free, because this is not what mainly people go out to dine for. Out of 100, maybe one will go out to dine to do this. Okay, there are guests that are very needy. There are guests that are not. There are guests that get offended. There are guests that don't have much money. There are guests that are rich. There are guests that like to make problems. This all comes in the dining experience. Now, therefore, a properly trained staff will know how to run this to a T. So, if my guest does not like what they've plated, I will plate it again and again and again and again until I think it's needed for my guest to leave happy. For a happy guest, it makes me a successful restaurant, because a happy guest leaves home and has a chain of happy guests. Okay, for one mad guest can make you like 30 mad guests out of that. So it's not something good to have. So there's no such thing as I run out products in my restaurant. If I have a dish on my restaurant to serve, I am not going to run out of products. I'm going to make sure that I have fully staffed product and staff, that I provide excellent products and to its best. I do not serve wilted products, and I do not serve anything frozen. I make everything from scratch, and I do it with pride and respect to God and its food. So now the whole idea is to have the best restaurant, right? So this is how I would do it. So now the waiter did that. They paired a nice Sauvignon Blanc. They did a nice dish. Now the whole table's buzzed, and remember, I want my guests to have all experiences. Now maybe a frangelico, or maybe on sambuco, or three coffee beans. You inflame it to infuse the coffee into the after dinner drink, and this makes the person be able to digest the food at a different excellent pace which sets aside from everything else, and it kind of like guarantees you a better digestion overall and experience of the food and to the guest itself. So remember, like, wow, that dinner was so great that it just like I just ate it and enjoyed so many different levels of it. See how I'm saying how much of attention I've done to that table, and my whole way of taking onto it makes me different from all others. So my guest is prone to come back. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I'm more than happy to have you guys, and I'm looking forward to see you again. Hey, tomorrow we're having a mahi mahi on the grill, just to let you know. And I guarantee you that Mr. Hernandez will be one of your regulars. Okay, so that's my way of seeing floors management in restaurants. So what do you guys think? Am I on the right track, or am I just crazy? Thank you.